As we move through today's presentation and begin to incorporate what well-being will look like for us, we would like to keep the idea of beginner's mind at the forefront. What is beginner's mind? Beginner's mind is a Buddhist concept from the Zen tradition. It is associated with the concept of Shoshin, which essentially encourages approaching each situation as it encountering for the very first time. When we're engaging in today's exercises, think about I want to encourage you to engage with the exercises as if you're totally new to them, if you have practiced them before. So it is really important for me to get a sense for this community and for this event to have a sense of what does well-being mean for you. Please, let's share in the large group chat. What is well-being for you? This could be a definition of something that brings you a sense of well-being or a well-being practice. A peaceful state of mind? Yes, I love that answer. How about for other folks? When I have engaged with the conversation around well-being, people will typically say, oh, self-care, taking care of my body, being with my family, feeling peaceful, feeling engaged. And these are definitely some of the things that come to mind when we're thinking about well-being. Well-being in general is more than just the absence of illness. It is a holistic state that encompasses physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual health. Achieving true well-being involves a balance and a harmony in various aspects of our life, and it is unique to each of us. It is based on our lived experiences, our cultures, our traditions, circumstances, wishes, and desires. It is also based on our life stage and our different abilities. When thinking about all of this, I want to particularly take a moment to reflect on the concept of spiritual well-being. A definition of spiritual well-being is finding meaning and purpose in life, and to be able to find a connection in something that is larger than yourself. For many of us, this might be connected with a religious or cultural practice, and I want to highlight that it is deeply personal. In particular, the concept of well-being is meaningful because, spirituality comes from the Latin spiritus, which means a breath of life. And so when thinking about well-being, a very important way of thinking about the spiritual connection with a larger purpose in life is to be connected with the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we taking care of ourselves? Additionally, when we're thinking about nourishing our well-being, it is like going on a long walk. Nourishing our well-being is not going on a sprint. It is an ontology. It is a way of existing and engaging with yourself and the world. I want to move away from this idea that well-being is an item on a to-do list. A moment ago, we had the invitation and we generated some ideas about what is well-being as a group. And you might be wondering, yes, Natalia, but let's get real. Because in our daily life, we encounter legitimate barriers to cultivating a sense of well-being, right? And those barriers are real. They do get in the way. How do we cultivate balance in our fast-paced world? How do we cultivate moments of stillness among the seemingly unending chaos? Because there are things that do get in the way, I want us to consider reflecting on what our typical morning looks like. Let's take this morning, for example. Perhaps you were multitasking. I know I was. I was definitely searching for and communicating with the folks about this event. Other folks might have been looking for the instructions to log into this event. Maybe you were catching up on the news. Maybe you were thinking about the week ahead. Maybe you were thinking about other commitments on your to-do list, and perhaps even about your long-term plans, right? With all of this running task list of things that we are engaged with, how do we build moments of wellness and stillness? Because our current world is so fast-paced, it is digitally driven, and the quest for success can sometimes frequently induce stress. It can induce burnout, and it can lead us to neglect our well-being. It is essential for us to reevaluate our priorities and strive to achieve as much as possible a balance that nurtures both achievement and tranquility. Here we go with our question. How do we go from there? How do we cultivate a sense of well-being, given the challenges that we're facing? One of the paths that we know that research shows is to first engage with self-compassion. To increase a sense of well-being, we need to cultivate a sense of self-compassion. As we're thinking about this, since you have the pen and paper with you, jot down some thoughts either there or in the chat if you feel comfortable about what thoughts and feelings arise for you when you hear the term self-compassion. Perhaps you're familiar with the term self-compassion, perhaps you haven't heard it. Perhaps you have an automatic reaction to the term self-compassion, because we live in a society that it often seems at odds with the term self-compassion, and sometimes it's at odds with teaching us how to cultivate compassion for ourselves, because we live in a society that oftentimes is perfectionistic, individualistic, and has a well-earned reputation for being a hardworking culture. Self-compassion might often seem like accepting self-complacency or mediocrity. However, through my years of working with college students and in mental health, I have often recognized that quite the contrary, because self-compassion often functions as an antidote to those things. So you might be wondering, hey, Natalia, how do I actually figure out what self-compassion means for me? So one of the things and tools that we found for this presentation, and Sharon was wonderful at this, to find a self-compassion test. If you hit that click me button, you're going to be taken to another page that is going to have a self-compassion test. It's going to take 6 to 7 minutes to go through the items. And then there's going to be scores at the bottom. I know that when I first took the self-compassion test, one of the things that came up for me was perhaps surprise about particular questions, and also an opportunity to reflect where I have been and where I am now in regards to my journey towards self-compassion, which is an ongoing exercise. So please share with us any insights that you had, any experiences about self-compassion on the chat. Oh, there we go. Okay, we got some scores. It's an interesting test because there are some scores where it will be higher, and that is towards more self-compassion, or lower, and that will be towards less self-compassion, and vice versa. So it's you have to read things carefully. Yeah. I love the compassionate messages that people are popping in their scores. I think it's really important when we're struggling. An awareness that self-compassion is an area for growth is a very powerful exercise to sometimes think about ourselves as if we were our friend. And what would we say to our friend if they were in a similar situation? Or what would we say to our younger child? Like, think about yourself as if you were a younger child facing a challenge, and what would you tell that child in regards to what they're going through? That can be a very powerful tool to help us engage with self-compassion with ourselves, of course. I love these empowering messages. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah. Let's sort of regroup to where we have been. We were discussing what is well-being for all of us. How do we get to where we want to go? What is a modern dilemma? Meaning, well, to truly radically accept that we live in a world that is fast-paced, where there are multiple challenges towards well-being and rest and stillness. In addition to and in connection with self-compassion, we also want to talk about stillness. When we're thinking about what our morning look like, perhaps calm, perhaps hecticness, or feeling energized, I saw lots of yoga practices, lots of self-care, and even the opportunity to be all together in this talk today. We want to talk about stillness too. So perhaps your morning felt chaotic. Even good things can feel chaotic, right? The power of stillness emerges as a beacon of hope. Oh, I love that message. We define stillfulness not merely as the absence of movement, It can be a deliberate choice to find peace amongst the storm. It's like you're solely planted. Things can be moving around you. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be passive, but to be still is to be centered. And how do we do this? Sometimes it can take 5 seconds to check in with yourself, to choose to re-engage with things, either exactly as they are, or to make a different choice, or to choose a middle path in between. When thinking about how do we do that, I want to present mindfulness as an option to engage with stillness and well-being. There is actually a poll. If you go into the poll section, there is a poll about mindfulness. If you feel inclined, go check it out and share with us. I believe the actual question is, how often do you take the time to reflect on your well-being journey? That's one. And then, what is your favorite practice for enhancing well-being? Most of us here might be aware that mindfulness and meditation are powerful ways to cultivate stillness. So this practice encourages living in the present moment and fostering a sense of peace and connection with oneself. Why do this? Why do mindfulness? Why is mindfulness such a buzzword word? Research shows that mindfulness can have a deep impact in our daily life. And one of the things that mindfulness can help us with is by creating mental clarity. So the opportunity to be still can help us have a mental reset by allowing us clear thinking and enhanced problem solving. Another very important thing that mindfulness can help us with is by engaging us in the practice of developing emotional resilience. Because by embracing mindfulness, we can understand how we're feeling in the moment. And that sense of awareness in and of itself is a very powerful tool to manage our own emotions, to shift into where we want to go, and to manage difficult emotions in particular. DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, is a very powerful evidence-based practice that can help people incorporate mindfulness into their daily life as a way of managing challenging life experiences, difficult emotions, or distress. And another very important thing when we're thinking about stillness is that by engaging with stillness, we are also allowing ourselves the opportunity for physical restoration, because the body heals through moments of stillness. Reducing stress and promoting overall physical well-being is an important way of taking care of ourselves. Sometimes people, when we are introducing the practice of mindfulness and mental health, a lot of the times people will say, well, I don't know that meditation is for me. I might feel like it's not something I can do. And when I'm working at Vassar, one of the things that I do is I actually teach mindfulness as part of one of the groups that I run. And the way I view mindfulness is as a set of different practices, and I aim to incorporate different kinds of mindfulness so that you can find the kind of mindfulness that sits right with you. Because while it is a practice and it needs to be built, the skill of mindfulness, it is really important to also consider that maybe guided imagery is not for you. Maybe deep breathing might be difficult to concentrate sometimes, but perhaps mindful eating is something you deeply enjoy, or going on a mindful walk, or doing one thing at a time and doing it fully mindfully. Meaning, if you're going to play with your grandkid, you put your phone away and you're really focused on that activity you're doing. Or without further ado, even if you feel like mindfulness is not for you, let's give it a try. Let's give it a try all together. We're going to engage in a brief mindfulness exercise. So if you haven't done so already, please put your phone away or silence it. And if you are doing something else, maybe you have the TV going, maybe find a moment to quiet your environment around you. And let's start. What I have right here is the Mindfulness Meditation ball. I'm going to ring it 3 times. The first time is going to be an opportunity for you to find a sense of connection with your body. The second one is going to be to find a connection with the environment. And the third, for your breathing. And then towards the end of the exercise, I will ring the bell again, and that will be an invitation for you all to bring your attention back into the room. If you haven't found an object, find something around you. It can be a piece of jewelry, it can be something on your desk, it can be a piece of fruit, anything can be good for this exercise. It just has to be an object that you can focus your attention for the next few minutes. Find a comfortable and quiet space to sit or lay down. And take a moment to settle into a relaxed position, allowing your body to be at ease. Now, I invite you to connect with the object that we chose for this exercise. It can be something simple, like a small stone, a candle, or an item that captures your interest. Take a moment to hold the object in your hands. Feeling its texture, weight, and shape. As you continue to hold the object, let your gaze softly rest upon it. Taking its details, colors, and any unique features you may have. Allow your awareness to be fully present with this object in your hands. As you observe the object, let your breath naturally deepen. Inhale and exhale with a sense of ease. Feeling the rhythm of your breath. Notice how your body moves with each breath, gently expanding and contracting. When your mind begins to wander, gently guide your attention back onto the object in your hands. Use this object as an anchor for your awareness, grounding yourself in the present moment. Now let's engage your senses. You may close your eyes if you feel comfortable, or maintain a soft gaze on the object, and begin to explore it with your senses. Feel its temperature. Notice any smells associated with it. And notice any sounds it might produce. Allow this sensory exploration to deepen your connection with the present moment. And if your mind starts to wander, acknowledge it without judgment and bring your focus back to the object. As we conclude this meditation, take a moment to express gratitude towards yourself for engaging in this exercise, and gratitude towards this object and the opportunity it allowed to engage with yourself and with your presence. Shortly, I'll be ringing the bell again. And when you're ready, gently transition back to your surroundings, bringing the awareness you cultivated into the rest of your day. One of the things that I know that I've done in the past is to allow myself to understand that my mindfulness practice can change, that sometimes I'll feel fully focused, that other times I might not. And that mindfulness in and of itself, it's a skill that must be built, and that is built through practice. What I'm hearing, the commonality in the comments, if you're reading them with me, is that the opportunity to take a brief pause is rare in our daily life. And that is exactly what we want to say, that sometimes when we take the time to pause and feel, we are connected with a deeper sense of what is it that we need. Sometimes it can be like, oh, my back really hurts, I should change positions, or I'm hungry, or I'm thirsty. And that sometimes just taking a moment to connect and be quiet and still can bring also a sense of awe. And a sense of awe it's a wonderful emotional experience that can also bring and expand a sense of wellness. But it is definitely about being deliberate about what is it that we're doing in our everyday life. Wow. Something similar happened to me. I love strawberries, and in one of the groups that I run, I encourage everybody to eat a strawberry for a mindful eating exercise. And I noticed things about strawberries that I had never noticed before, even though I eat them almost every week. So that's why I enjoy this exercise so much, to be able to notice things in our everyday life that feel different or that appear different when we observe them deeply. So let's make it intentional, right? We've defined well-being for ourselves. We've done a mindfulness exercise. We've taken some time to concentrate, right? And so now let's make it intentional. Remember that journal that we had a moment ago where we drew our cat, maybe took some notes about self compassion. I want to invite you all to consider this. What does a nourishing lifestyle look like for you? Right? And this is a personal journey of self-connection and self-exploration. So grab your notepad, grab your journal, and think about the following questions. And don't necessarily worry about answering all of the questions. I think it's important to grab the ones that resonate with you. I'm going to pop in a few questions. Just grab the one that resonates with you. Think about your cultural background and your identity. And remember, our identity is multifaceted. It has to do with our age, our gender, our sexual identity. It has to do with our cultural background, our race, our ethnicity, our nationality, our ability. So many things, right, are connected with where our identity is. So how can these aspects of your identity, of your cultural background, play a role in your well-being? So reflect on your current well-being practices. What are your current well-being practices, and what are areas you would like to improve? Perhaps there is a goal for your well-being that you are aspiring to achieve in the future. It can be a new practice, it can be a milestone. And as you envision this goal, consider who or what can support you in staying committed to it. So we're going to take a few minutes to jot down some thoughts. Remember, this doesn't need to be an essay. It's just to get your imagination going about where do you want to be in the future? Where are you now, and how can you be deliberate when it comes to your well-being practices? Thank you all for sharing some of the support systems or self-support systems that you have developed over the times that you've been reflecting on your well-being journey. And also, the things that you hope to rely on in the future. I love the quotes. I love the well-being practices. Thank you so much for sharing those. Now, what we're going to be doing next is to make it communal. This is a group of wonderful people that have similar interests as you, and they might have different cultural backgrounds. So what I would like for us to do now is that we're going to be divided into breakout rooms, and this is going to be an opportunity to share your reflections from this practice and share your goals in small groups. This will allow the opportunity to engage in a meaningful conversation and discover common themes amongst this community. Our hope is that in sharing with the community, our shared wisdom can be spread, and we can explore new ways of infusing well-being into our daily routines.